Hi folks, it's Big Al here. This is a sort of a response video really to all the videos that I've seen out there. I've been watching a lot of the watch videos with Andy Hunter that I like, the Simon Crane ones, and who can you forget, the infamous Archie Luxury slash Paul Pluter. So, watches, where are we today? What have I been up to? Just a few things. I've got a script here, you see, and this is testament really to I think the guys that do these videos. I need a script. I'm struggling. So, for the rest of you guys out there that are doing the vids and prepping them and putting together the ads and all the other wee bits and pieces that you plug in, it's quite tough. And I'm not going to do anything fancy today, nothing like that. So full credit where it's due. So where are we with watches? Previous watches. I'll go through some of the kind of history of where I've been with watches, just to kind of put things into context. So, I mean, when I was younger, I mean, there's probably other people out there that can identify with this. I had the usual kind of fake sort of G-Shocky, you know, dive watches that, you know, you know what they're like. The minute you put them in water, that's them busted. We've all had the kind of the cheaper sort of Omega or tag copies or whatever, you know, same sort of story. Quartz, you get fed up, toss it in a drawer. And I decided, I think it was like a couple of years back, my old man had kicked the bucket and I thought, you know what, sod it, I'm going to buy an automatic. And I ended up, the first automatic I bought was the Christopher Ward C8 Pilot, the black dial. I always wanted a kind of a military flight watch. And I really like, you know, I like the Christopher Ward thing. I like the brand. I know, Archie, you think it's soft. But, you know, I quite respect what the guys at Christopher Ward are doing. They produce some quite nice watches. That one I've got, it's a 44 mils, bigger than I thought. I never quite realised it's 44 mil really until I went to a slightly smaller watch. And it's got quite a big crown on it, so it does. But I mean, I'm quite a big guy, so it sat, you know, okay on the wrist. I like the whole kind of vintage strap, the sort of the Ur style design, you know. I love all that kind of retro thing, and yeah, it's an homage, you know. It is what it is. And what do you pay for them? You know, maybe 400 quid, that kind of mark in the UK, and that's a good price. It's nice, you know, for what it is. ETA movement in most of them. Some of them have got the Salita. With mine, my ETA one, I mean, I was getting 2 seconds a day. I was gaining, which, to all intents and purposes, although it wasn't officially a COSC certified watch, you know, at the end of the day, it was doing 2 seconds a day gain, and that's pretty damn good, you know, for something at that kind of price point. And I really love the watch. I still got it. My son's wearing it today down at the aircraft place, so no doubt he'll be showing that. And the reason he's got it is because I've bought something. But what did Ali Paly buy? That's the question. So I started looking at Rolex. I absolutely detest Breitlings, tags, Tag Heuers, you know, all of that. Just don't have any time for it really. I don't know why. It just doesn't appeal to me. So I was looking at Rolex, and the first watch I looked at was sub no date, black dial, quite like that. But as Archie says, you know, I'm not going to say Archie kind of influenced my choice, but I do agree with probably about 80% of what Archie says, and I do also appreciate some of the other advice that the other guys are putting out there as well. Look at the sub no date, but it is, as Archie says, a bit passé. You know, you see it a mile off and you think, nope head. You know, really, it's just a cock watch basically, and you know, it's a nice watch in its own right. I don't dislike it, but it just wasn't for me. I started looking at the Explorer 2 white dial polar. I looked at the old model, the whatever it is, 1657, over the one with the wee red GMT. And interestingly enough, I mean, I went up to Glasgow. I actually lived down south in Wales, but I went back up to Glasgow, my hometown, and I went in the usual Argyle arcade that Simon's mentioned before. And I went in the kind of the usual retailers where the guys are, you know, so fucking slick and made of Teflon that you could actually crack an egg on their fucking suit and it would just cook and slide off. You know the type of guys that are just out to gouge you, and they were looking for the usual thing. What is it, 5, 6? You know, 5.5 grand to 6 for the rollies. So I had a little look and I had a bit of wrist time, but I knew I was only in just to look and have a bit of a play, get a bit of wrist time with them. And then on the way out, I discovered, I'm going to make a mention to this dealer. I haven't bought from this dealer, I actually bought my watch elsewhere, but I'm going to mention the dealer because I think it's quite a cool little dealer, and it's called Tom Call, and he's upstairs. And to get to it, you have to kind of go through a sort of like a little James Bond experience. You know, there's like a wooden panelled stairway, and there's like a little old style elevator, you know, lift that you go up. And it's quite cool, you know, you go up and then you come into a reception area and they've got to buzz you through the security door. And then all of a sudden, it's like, I didn't expect this when I went in, but he's basically got case upon case upon case of all these Rolexes of all ages. And the thing that really impressed me about the Tom Call, I think he's got just about every Rolex that's ever actually been made. You know, if you want a root beer, go to Tom Call. If you want a GMT non-ceramic, go to Tom Call. So he's pretty much got everything, which is cool. But at the time, I don't think I was ready to buy. You know, I was up there on a flying visit, and I just basically ballsed out of the buy. You know, I could have maybe picked up one or two when I was there, and I thought, nah, leave it. Have a bit of thinking time. Anyway, the other thing that's kind of going on is I'm in the process of getting a new kitchen, which is like 9 grand. So that is absolutely ball breaking me, you know. So I ended up, I thought, do you know what, I'm never going to get this Rolex. It's just never going to happen. And then, whilst I was kind of torn between the Explorer 2 white dial, I also looked at the Milgauss. I really like the Milgauss because I love a really clean, sharp face. I hate these really complicated dials. You know, when you look at like a Breitling and it's got a fucking slide rule and 6 chronos and, you know, all this kind of shit. It's nice if you're into that. And I'm into techie stuff. But on a watch, I don't know what it is, I just like a clean dial and, you know, something a bit more classy. And I really wanted a proper waterproof watch, so it had to be something in the Oyster range. So I was torn, really torn between the Milgauss. I was after the kind of maybe the older Explorer 2, maybe the newer Milgauss. Really, really tough. I liked the black dial in the Milgauss. I quite liked how the white dial pops on the Explorer. And then it just seems to get more complicated as you go on, you know, because you're looking at these watches and you're thinking, oh, Christ, and I think Simon's picked up on this in some of his videos. You know, you're looking at a watch, you can pick up the old Explorer 2, you know, you could maybe pick it up in, you know, Chrono 24 for, I don't know, fucking 2.5 grand or something, you know, and it's probably going to be battered to shit, it's going to need a service, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, you start to get into that difficult thing is, you know, the only problem is that new is 6K, you know, second hand 2.5. You're really caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. But as Archie said, and I did stick by Archie's advice on this, don't fucking buy retail. So I did stick to that bit of advice. And in the end, the thing that was difficult with the Milgauss with the black face is it just doesn't do enough. You know, if you buy one of them second hand for 4.5 grand, what does it do? It doesn't have the date, for obvious reasons with the whole magnetic jiggery pokery. So it doesn't do the date, it doesn't have a bezel, it doesn't do GMT. What does it do for your 4.5 grand? You got a nice watch, you know, and if you were fucking Daniel Craig, and you happen to be at the Oscars one day and you pop on the white dial, yeah, cool, and then the next day, because you're so super fucking rich, you know, you go out with a black dial Milgauss, and then the next day you think, fuck the Milgauss, I'm gonna wear a sub today or an Omega. You know, it's great if you've got infinite money and the ability to do that. But if you're kind of like myself, or sometimes like some of the other guys that I've seen who maybe don't have quite as much money, and you're going to maybe have one really kick-ass piece, that decision is hard. It's harder. So white dial, the problem with that white dial Explorer 2 was there's a couple of people I showed it to. I loved it. At first I was in love with it. A couple of people said, oh, looks a bit cheap. You know, because of the white dial, it slightly cheapens it, I think. But it's still a good watch. It's not an ungood watch. And the Milgauss doesn't do enough. So how do you solve that problem? And at around about the point, I thought, I'm just never going to be able to afford this. Kitchen's on its way, blah, blah, blah. I need to start moving money around to buy this kitchen. Isn't going to happen. And then I went down to town with my mate Ash, and he pointed out this blackface Explorer 2. Pretty much nearly new. And it sits. And the white face is popular. You know, if you look at the stats, probably about 80% of people prefer the white face Explorer 2. But hear me out. Why did I get this? So what have we got? Here we are. I don't know what this will look like up close. Probably crap. But blackface Explorer 2. The great thing about this, it's got all the features of the white dial. You know, you still got the date, the GMT, and all of that. Nice watch. I went for this, so there's several things here people are going to be lampooning me, right? Is why did you go for black instead of white? I think the black looks smarter and classier. You can get away with that. I think that fits. The white dial to me is sports watch. It's a bit pigeonholed into sports watch. The black dial, I think, it's still the functionality of a sports watch. You know, it's got the black dial from the sub. It's got the GMT function a bit from the GMT. But it's still got all of the heritage and the coolness of the Explorer kind of history, if you buy into all that Rolex stuff, you know, and all that kind of blurb. But it's still, because of the black dial, it's kind of ticking the dress watch kind of bit. Second thing is size. Read a lot of articles. I was very, very, very tempted by the old model because I thought this was too big at first. Until I got her on the wrist, and probably because I'm a big guy, you know, I'm 6'1" and a bit. You know, my wrist's thick. I've had to put both links onto that to get it to fit, and it's sitting on the extender, so I'm probably a fat bastard. So it is what it is. But you know, that size, the new one, the 216, blah blah blah, whatever it is, that is an okay size on my wrist. When I tried the other slightly smaller Rolex models on, like an old GMT from the 80s or 90s, it just looked too small. And I think it's just right. You know, I think sizes are going up across the board. The other day I saw there's two watches out there that to me are just fucking comedy watches, which is the Breitling one. I can't mind the name of it, but it's the one that's the biggest motherfucker watch that they do. It's so thick. I mean, Christ, it's practically as thick as this is wide. It's the most ridiculous watch. What do they call it? The Patrol or some stupid thing like that. Too big. The Navitimer's up to 44 or 46 mils or some ridiculous size. I mean, that really is mega big. And there's a few others that are just really, really oversized, I think. But I think the Rolex is still small enough to retain the class. That's how I feel. Buyer's remorse? None. It's still quite a bit of money to shell out on a watch just to tell the time. But by taking Archer's advice, don't pay fucking retail. What did I pay for this? Well, I think it was £4 in the UK. And you might be able to get a smidge cheaper elsewhere in Europe, but you'd have the currency conversion. You probably wouldn't know the history. You'd have to go to a Joe Spud dealer that you didn't know. You know, I looked at a number. I mean, I gave this bit of advice to Simon the other week about, oh, you know, have a look at Chrono 24. But, you know, realistically, if you're buying something from Italy, it could be a fake or a grey. You know, are you going to take that chance? And 4 grand's a lot of money to throw away on something that turns up, you know, in fucking clicks around the dial like a quartz, and you think, Christ, what's happened to my money? So, you know, I did consider going out to Italy and maybe going to a dealer and picking it up in person, that sort of thing. But then you got to add a couple £100 on in the flights, and then a bit of money to stay there and a bit of money to do the currency conversion. It wasn't going to work out cheaper, so I got this for 4. Everyone I've seen in the UK pretty much knocking around the 4.5 mark. This is 2-year-old. I think it's a 2012 or 13. It's a couple of year old. Absolutely mint condition. Box and papers. Got all of that. That's all tickety-boo. So I think it wasn't a bad price. I don't think I'm going to lose mega money on it. I think if I flip that in another year or 2 or whatever, I'm certainly not going to lose. I'll get most if not more of my money back. So I think that's the way to go. I like it. The loom, I mean, you just can't beat it. I mean, the loom on the C8, the CW, is pretty damn good. You know, I give it maybe a 7 out of 10. But it does fade quite a bit over the night. You know, it does last a bit, but it's usable. I mean, with this, I tried it last night. Bit of light on it before I tucked in, under the covers. Cool. And then I woke up, I think it's 6 for a pee. And it was really fucking legible. You know, it was still probably medium brightness after 6 hours. Then at 7, it was already getting light again. So, you know, you can't fault the loom. I've seen a couple of comments knocking around on how the loom is blue rather than green. I mean, I like it. I like the modern one. I like the blue. It sort of as it fades over the night, it sort of turns a bit green anyway. So, you know, I like it. I don't dislike it. It's all been pretty cool, you know. I've been playing with the GMT bit on it a bit, you know. I think it just does more stuff. It's just I think a better investment, you know. And I think also if I'd bought the Milgauss, because I've spoke to a few dealers since, if I had bought the Milgauss and I tried to flip it later, it might have been a bit tougher to sell, whereas a Sub or an Explorer 2, all day long, people will want to buy that off you. So there we have it. So yeah, thanks to all the guys out there whose advice I've looked at and bits and bobs. But I've tried to kind of justify the purchase on that. My tactic, and this is for the prospective guys thinking of buying stuff and worried about the reaction of the missus or better half. For me, it was a case of I bought the wife a kitchen. So, you know, and gave her a few quid. So that sort of smoothed things over. So I basically had to effectively bribe her, you know, and then I bought it. And then it was much harder for her to go, you know, if I had said, well, fuck the kitchen, I'm not buying that, and then turned up with 2 Rolexes, you don't want to be doing that. You know, you don't want to be ruining your relationship, as Andy Hunter quite rightly pointed out. But I did bribe her. So, you know, take it whatever way you like. Alright, thanks folks, I'm going to sign off now. I should be doing some work. Enjoy.